We're live.
Hi.
All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to our ITSAN webinar of the month. I am so excited. I am Dr. Molly Evans and I host our ITSAN webinars. This month we have an extra special treat. We have two guests, two fellow warriors that you probably, you may know from all of our social media, Jessica Verdonck and Cara Ward. So Jessica, you're in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah.
And Cara is in England.
Yes.
Yes. So we're across the world with ITSAN, which I feel like, I don't know if everybody else senses it, but I feel like these connections are just becoming so much tighter despite the distance. And Jessica and I were talking just a minute ago about how going through topical steroid withdrawals can feel like one of the loneliest journeys. And it's not necessary anymore. I was just sharing with both of them that I was the kind of person, I wasn't on social media before steroid withdrawals. And so I did a lot of this work on my own and through Google searches, but I'm so hopeful and excited because I feel like now there's like a little rising, a revolution where our fellow warriors are just coming through and saying, we're gonna connect, we're gonna be there with you, we're gonna walk the journey with you, tell you everything we know and don't know, and use all of our skills together to help each other. So to our ITSAN community, you have support, and today we have two warriors who are going to talk about their connection, how it formed, and also what they're doing in the midst of going through withdrawals to continue to empower themselves and to empower our very special community. So before we get started, I just have to throw out the disclaimer. Remember that everything that's said in here is just the experience and the point of view of the people that are sharing with us and gifting us their time. So if there's something that you disagree with, remember it is not the necessary viewpoint of ITSAN. Today we're gonna hear from Cara and Jessica. These are their experiences, their point of view, and it's all with the intention to help and support us all in our healing journey. So that's the disclaimer. Also remember, if you're new to ITSAN or if you are curious about what ITSAN is, go to itsan.org. And every single dollar helps. So if you feel compelled to donate, I know that it was just, only recently for me where I got more involved with advocacy with ITSAN and have become a regular monthly donator to our group, because I'm telling you that there are warriors all over from our board. Kelly Barta is working tirelessly and just making connections. So every single dollar helps. So even if you feel like all you can donate is a couple bucks, do it, because it's all going for goodness. So with that, let's get started. And remember that we will do Q&A. I see we've got quite a few people here. So we will do Q&A. If you want to type in any questions, we'll try to answer them either in a timely manner or at the end, as long as we have time. All right, so Jessica and Cara. Jessica works with me on the board with ITSAN. She is a contributor to us. She does all of our warrior highlight stories. She makes sure she collects them. She's getting the patient profiles together. So she's really helping us like bring that together so we can, one, see who we are, let you know that we see you, we hear you, we love you. And also she's getting together these profiles because when we are out advocating, those are the stories. Your stories are the ones that get in front of these doctors and legislators and show them that we are a real, TSW is not just eczema, it's a real thing. So, and Cara, you may know, is an author. And Jessica, I'm gonna let you introduce Cara a little bit, but just know this, the neatest thing is Jessica and Cara have come together because of TSW, but they formed a connection and a relationship by communicating in social media. And I got to witness their first live moment before we went live on this webinar. Jessica had tears in her eyes and it was like two old friends. It was like a reunion. It was absolutely beautiful. It was beautiful. So I feel honored to be in the presence of you two who have formed this connection. So Jessica, take us away with your questions. I literally just had chills go down my whole body because I'm so excited about you guys being together. So Jessica,
you can feel it.
Yes, share with us. Tell us what's going on with you and Cara.
So I have like butterflies. It's just like nervous, excited energy. Like again, for someone that I have never met before in person, but I've known for 3 years since embarking on this journey, from just Instagram. And I would have never imagined meeting people that will be lifelong friends to me. Like I can't wait for the day that I tell Cara all the time that I get through this and I go to London and she takes me on a food tour to eat some amazing donuts and have British tea and crumpets like I see in stores.
Yeah, it's all about the food, I'm not going to lie.
It's all about the food here too.
It's an itinerary. Just food. Screw the like attractions. It's like, where's the best donut?
Exactly. I don't care about seeing the Parliament or anything like that.
Yeah,
just give me sugar after all this. I just want sugar.
I can deliver sugar, I assure you. Oh my goodness.
So no, I've been going through withdrawal for 34 and a half months now, and it's been a long struggle and a long road for me. But, you know, Cara has been someone who's been in the community, the Instagram and Facebook community, you know, since I started. Cara is just passed and hit her 6 years TSW and has been healed for about 4 years now. And she's just been a huge inspiration of hope to the community. And she's written an amazing book, Curing My Incurable Eczema. And, you know, she's just been a major advocate for us in the community, spreading awareness, sharing hope, and people count on her. And, you know, I just wanted this experience to get to talk with her and for you all to get to know what an amazing human being she is and to hear a story of hope for going forward.
And likewise to Jess. Sorry, just chipping in there.
Thank you. So for everyone, I just want to again say about Cara. Cara is a writer from London. She went through topical steroid withdrawal from June 2013 to August 2015. It took her about 26, 27 months to get through the journey. Since she recovered from red skin syndrome, she's been passionate about spreading awareness to the TSW community, for spreading hope so that no one else would have to suffer through this condition like she has. In December 2017, she released a book, Curing My Incurable Eczema, all about her TSW experience. And she also has a blog, tswcara.blogspot.com, about her journey, which has been read by a lot of people. So now I just want to give the floor to Cara and to tell us your story. To get started, tell us about your eczema story pre-TSW.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always, a skin condition has basically been in my sort of conscious life. My mum noticed a patch of eczema on my wrist when I was about 6 months old, and being a parent, she took me to the doctor, at which point they said it was eczema. They gave me a mild hydrocortisone. And I mean, now it's sort of like speculating, but my eczema did start to spread. Can't say for sure whether it was because of, you know, the initial hydrocortisone. And I definitely didn't have RSS at that point, but so yeah, basically I started getting eczema in more places. Throughout my childhood, I definitely experienced it quite badly, but I was able to have a relatively normal childhood. And when I was about 7 or 8, I apparently sort of not grew out of it, but it calmed right down. And it remained like that until I went to secondary school at 11 years old. And I had, in a nutshell, a really bad time at secondary school. I think it's probably a mixture of things, you know, it's hormones, you know, puberty, all those wonderful, terrible things, you know, all coming together, bad school experience. My skin came up very badly. And at that point, so I was probably about 12 or 13 when I went to the doctors a hell of a lot, and they referred me to the hospital. I would see a lot of dermatologists, doctors at the hospital, and I can have what can only be a very bleak experience, especially in my early teens with eczema. It was really severe. Looking back, I wish I'd written down exactly when all this happened, but I think around 13 or 14, I was, like I said, at the hospital with a dermatologist. There was one in particular that was quite heavily involved in my treatment of eczema at the time, and he prescribed a course of oral steroids, prednisolone, and like I said, I think that was when I was 13 or 14, and in my sort of looking back, I would say that's probably when RSS probably infiltrated the eczema. So I found from that point, that was when I started using after, you know, when I finished the oral steroids, that's when I started using a lot of topical steroids. I mean, whilst I was using the oral steroids, I was using topicals, but when I came off them, I got into a pattern. I think without even realizing, I was just using topical steroids regularly. And essentially, I got into the habit of, I would use them twice a day, every day for years. You know, I would stop using the topical steroids. My skin would come up really badly suddenly. I go to the doctors, they'd say, oh, that's eczema, you should use a stronger steroid. Now, to backtrack a bit, when I was back in the hospital in my teens with the dermatologist there, they were prescribing me things like Verdonck and, you know, quite strong stuff. And even back then, and luckily my mum she's not anti-drugs, but she's very, very cautious. She went throughout my childhood when I had eczema, she applied topical steroids very sparingly. So going back, sorry, I go all over the place.
No,
I need to just write it down, otherwise it's all over the place. So yeah, in my teens, when I'd use the oral steroids and they'd started prescribing me things like Verdonck, I knew even then that these were too strong, and I was trying to think of a way that I could sort of lessen, you know, the severity of it. So I weaned myself down from Verdonck to using Umivate, which I used every day, twice a day for years.
Now, what potency is that?
I think, I'm not sure of the potency, but I think it's probably the step up from hydrocortisone. So I think it's one of the milder topical steroids. And I still don't really understand how, but for years, because like I said, I knew these were dangerous, but I couldn't see any other way around it, because like I said, I'd intermittently take the topical steroids away because I was like, oh, I can't use these, but my skin was so bad. I go to the doctor, they say it's eczema, then they try and prescribe me a really strong steroid, and I thought a lesser of two evils is to just carry on what I'm doing, using the Umivate twice a day. And I somehow was able to control my whole body through putting it on my neck and my hands. So my routine would be to put like a dollop of the topical steroids on my hands, rub it in like that and do that. And that it was really quite crazy. The other thing is I did it like that because I hated the feeling, I don't know if you both feel the same, of topical steroids on your fingers. And even to this day, I think about that sort of, not wrinkling feeling, but when you put it on, there was, I don't know, it makes me feel a bit funny now, but yeah, Umivate, I used to, whenever I had to put it on like that, I hated the feeling. So yeah, that's why I used to do it like that. So I didn't have any actual contact on my hands. And yeah, I got into this pattern for years. Then maybe a few years before I actually went through withdrawal, I was like, again, panicking about using topical steroids. So I went down to hydrocortisone 1% and got into the same routine, putting it on my hands, my neck every day, twice a day. Again, believing this was the best alternate, the only option I had, because every time I took them away, it would just come up so badly I couldn't really live. And then I go to the doctors, and then we get into that cycle of sort of, they'd say, oh, it's eczema, you know, use stronger topical steroids. And I'd be like, do I use the stronger topical steroids, or do I just continue to use the hydrocortisone, you know, every day? So, you know, I thought may as well just use the milder, you know, hydrocortisone.
So the highest you ever used was Umivate, but really
I think I used Dermavate once, but I think because my mum was obviously very, you know, concerned already, we were both very scared of the Dermavate, and I thought if I can get away without it, you know, I'll do that, and I was able to, luckily.
See, and that's
sorry.
I was just going to say that's incredible to me, because, and I mean, maybe that's for me too, why it's making my journey harder and longer. I was never prescribed the lower potencies to begin with.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, prescribed. I mean, I went through I was using the steroid creams for anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So right off the bat, I was prescribed clobetasol, the highest potent for my body. and Elicon, which is mid-potent for my face. And that's just what I went on to use because it worked every time, but every time it kept coming back and coming back, you know, and every time he would go to the doctor, he would write me the same prescription. So
it's mental to me that like a doctor would see eczema and go, I'm going to go for the highest.
Right. Because he wanted to knock it out to make sure I don't come back.
I mean, that seems, I mean, you know what, I say this, like literally every page of my book is like, I love doctors. I have loads of, I really do. But I think that way of prescribing is half of the reason.
No, because with any medication, you should never throw someone the highest dosage of something. It's like, mental. You don't even know how they're going to react to any medication. You always should start out slow and lower and see how that works first.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, this is mental, absolutely mental. I should also throw out as well that throughout the sort of pattern of years where I was using the hydrocortisone twice a day every day and the Umabate, I would have periods where I'd think, oh, I'll try Protopic to sort of try and get off the topical steroids. Mm-hmm. They weren't exactly the same. I mean, you know, it took away the eczema, but, you know, the side effects of Protopic are a joke. I mean, I'm quite anti-Protopic. I don't know why that's still a thing. You know, I'm very concerned. I'm troubled by Protopic. No,
I don't really understand why, honestly, doctors prescribe Protopic with the black box cancer warning, thinking they're giving something better than steroids. Like, steroids don't even have black box cancer warnings.
Exactly, it's mental to me. And like when I was using Protopic, I had to go to the hospital because literally, I mean, as you can see, I'm a very redheaded, freckled girl, and that's just, you know, part of my colouring. But I mean, in the dead of winter, I was using Protopic and told to keep out the sun, and I did. I was literally like under an umbrella. I was like really taking that quite seriously, and I broke out in freckles to the point where I had to go to the hospital for this like rather pervy like cameraman to take pictures of me, you know, of all my new weird freckles. It's dangerous stuff. But yeah, sorry for deviating there, but I did try suppressants, only Protopic.
In my experience, they had given me they told me to use the steroid creams and then when I wasn't using the steroid creams, to use Elidel as maintenance. And thankfully, Elidel never worked for me, really. So I just kept using the steroid creams.
Oh my goodness, mental.
And then towards the end of my line, when I was going through doctor after doctor, I had gone to an allergist, and he had told me that, you know, have I tried Protopic before? And I'm like, no, I'd never heard of this. And he's like, well, you know, it has some bad side effects, but let me tell you, my baby who, you know, 6 months old was covered with eczema and awful. And I have the baby on Protopic, and he's a year old now, and he has beautiful skin. A baby covered, lathered in Protopic. So I'm like, the doctor is putting his baby in it. That must mean it's okay. So he's like, it might burn. If it burns, just take Advil with it. So I tried the Protopic 2 times, and it burnt me so much that I was like, I'm not taking something that I have to take Advil with to put on. My skin is already red. Why would I want to burn on top of it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the burning's quite something when you get in the shower. Like, that's quite, oh my goodness, that is mental. Absolutely mental.
Horrific. So tell me, to move a little bit further in the process, how did you find out about TSW?
So it was at the point a couple of months before inevitably going through withdrawal and starting my journey with that. I was, like I said, I was in my pattern of, you know, using topical steroids every day, twice a day, the hydrocortisone. So yeah, for about 2 years before I started withdrawal, I was using hydrocortisone, which I weaned myself down from Unabate. The year before I started withdrawal, when I was using the hydrocortisone, I went on holiday to Greece with my friends, and my skin broke out in like the craziest hives. And I mean, it's lucky in England, whenever we have summer, it's, you know, it's not, I mean, the last couple of years have been blooming boiling, but on the whole, we, you know, English summer's quite, you know, chill, quite mild. So I never really experienced anything in the sun. But then when I went to Greece, literally I was covered in hives. And I only brought my little tub of like hydrocortisone with me. So I was like, oh God. So I started putting it on thicker than I had, you know, my routine of like under my neck was out the window. I was like, just get it on me. And I remember like a few nights before we left, I was like, I need a pharmacy. So I went down in this like Greek town looking for a pharmacy, and I found like a tube of Humavate, which I slathered over my body. Made no difference. These hives, like I think they were hives, like this weird rashy hives were not going anywhere. And, you know, but I was like, okay, it's the holiday's nearly over, you know, it's fine. Literally from like day 2, I was like covered up because of these hives. It was really annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then when I came back to the UK, it calmed down again. I got back into my routine of the hydrocortisone on my hands and under my chin. And then 2 months before withdrawal, which was, so it was the April, I think, of 2013, I had to like, I was meant to sing at a friend's wedding, and I also was like preparing for a big audition because I used to perform. And suddenly, just before that, my eyes got so puffy, like to the point where like all the skin around my eyes just blew up, and I'd never had any issues around my eyes at all. Like, you know, it was not even when I took away topical steroids in the past, like my eyes had never been affected in any way. So that was strange. And then I noticed these rashes coming up, only a few rashes, one or two randomly on my legs, and a couple of other rashes on my arms. And I was like, that's weird, because, you know, I, under my chin and hands, had controlled my whole body to this point. But it seemed to be timed with when my eyes, I still don't really understand what that was. And I thought, oh, I'll put the hydrocortisone on these rashes. Nothing was shifting them. So I was like, okay, this is strange. So I went to the doctor probably in May. I don't know the specific dates. And I spoke to a rather hostile doctor who was like, oh, use Betnovate. And, you know, up until this point, I had been thinking more and more, I have to stop using topical steroids, because I've noticed for quite a few years that my skin was so thin. On my like jawline especially, you could literally, it was quite scary. You could see veins clearly through my skin, and also on my arm. That was like, and so in April and May, I'm doing a lot of serious thinking about, oh God. And then on June the 6th, I, even thinking about it now, it's like such a, I don't know, it's like really emotional for me that day. But
like reliving it.
No, absolutely. And I was like, so I'd come away from this really uninspiring doctor's appointment with this hostile doctor, and I was like, what do I do? I've got, you know, I could see a slippery slope. Like, where was I going to go from Betnovate? I couldn't see any sort of positive outcome from it, but I had no idea what to do, because I thought if I stop using them, my eczema is so bad, I can't live a life. So I thought, I'm sort of bound to these things. I haven't got a choice. And yeah, on the day of the 6th of June, my mum in the morning was like, Cara, the veins were so bad on my face. And it was almost like a seed was planted. She'd said it a lot in the past, and I'd sort of gone, yeah, but what can I do? I'm sort of trapped, you know? And but that day something switched, I think, with my mum, you know, bringing it up this time. And on the evening of the 6th of June, I just put into Google like addicted to topical steroids, and it was literally like bam, 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 light bulb. And it was the most extraordinary moment of sort of course it is. And it just, everything clicked into place. It was like suddenly, you know, like my skin in the sun, like when I just had eczema back when I was a child and I wasn't sort of on topical steroids every day, my skin loved sun. My skin absolutely loved it. My eczema would clear away. But nothing was making sense. And when I saw the answer with red skin syndrome and topical steroid withdrawal, it was the most sure I've been about anything in my life. Like, I knew this was, you know, it was it. And it was just like, it was 100%. I was like, oh, I'm done. That's it. I'm good. You know, they were in the bin. Like, I've said this a lot in the past. I'm very stubborn. I knew I was going to do this, and it was like, yeah, I'm going for it. And I did. And it was, yeah, it was not pleasant. Not a pleasant thing, but it was the best decision I have ever made in my life. And it probably will be the best decision I ever make in my life, because it had such an extraordinary impact on me. And
because it gave you your life back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's free and healthy.
Yeah, it's absolutely, yeah.
If you can make it through this, you can make it through anything. That's what I say to my husband. I mean, after this, I want to climb mountains. I want to jump out of planes. I'd be unstoppable after going through now. Like, I will not complain about anything. I won't stress about my crazy mother-in-law or this and that and the other. Nothing will bother me after what I've dealt with.
Absolutely.
And before this, everything used to annoy me. I would complain about this. I would complain about that. This just changes your perspective.
Oh, God, it's insane how it sort of completely makes you see things from a perspective.
It teaches you a lot. And it's very funny because, you know, my friends, I went to college in Pennsylvania and I was from New Jersey. I'm very fast moving. I'm an Italian. Like, we talk fast. My mom always said, like, if you can't talk fast enough, if you can't say something fast enough, don't say it at all. So I joke how I'm the most impatient person ever. I'm a fast driver. I just do everything fast, no patience. And now this is the biggest test of patience of my entire life. So I'm being scolded on a lesson of patience.
Oh my gosh, no. Yeah, you definitely learn a lot of patience through this. Jesus. Oh my goodness. Oh God. But no. But it all just boils down to time. It's so boring to say it, but it is just like, give it time. And I think, yeah, unfortunately, time in our sort of line of condition is, you know, a bit longer than, you know, usual time as a measure. But
yeah, it's just hard going through this because you don't have someone telling you how much longer. And, you know, often I say to my husband, I feel like it's a prison sentence. And if I only knew when I was getting out, that would make it a lot easier to go through. I mean, even prisoners know when they're getting out.
Exactly. It is, I think that's the part that messes with your mind. You just don't know. You just don't know at all. I think half of that is good in a way. Like, I think especially when me and Molly went through it, like, we went through it blindly, you know, for the most part. And I think in some ways that's a bit of a blessing, you know, because now I'm sort of sad for people going through withdrawal now, because there's so much information coming at you. Go, you know, veganism, like immunosuppressants, like NMT, is that the right terminology? Moisturizer withdrawal. It's like, oh my goodness, what are you meant to do? I just
and that's huge and amazing that you say that, because it's been really difficult for me going through this. I've always been someone who has to have control. I was an event planner and my life was regimented, and going through this, I've kind of been out of control because I've seeing everyone doing something different. And I've done and tried and spent thousands of dollars trying to get through this year with the Chinese medicine, the NMT, the LDN, the cryotherapy, the functional medicine doctors, the naturopaths, everything to try to make this go away and sooner. And it's just, and like you said, when you were going through it, I'm sure there was none of this crazy talk. You just did it. Yeah.
It was literally like, oh, use Vaseline. And I was like, oh God, that's literally it. And they were like, oh, cold ice packs. They didn't even have a freezer. So I was like, I can't even use that tip. Like, there was literally nothing. And I think it is overwhelming now.
And I think in a way I would have rathered that your way, not knowing any other options, because then at least I would have felt like I didn't have to do and try and spend all these things. That time would really be the only thing. But now I can't even just trust it's time, because you see so many people doing so many other alternative things, you know?
Yeah. I think that's why it's so imperative that, we get some kind of trials and, you know, research into this so we can get a definitive, I mean, obviously, like I say, it is down to time, but maybe some kind of body of, you know, one page where it's like, these are the facts, you know, ignoring all this sort of craziness going on around it and just be able to focus on this one method. You know, I think that's the other thing. There's a lot of pressure within our community in terms of sort of following a specific thing. I think we've gotten away from the fact that it is down to time, and it doesn't, you know, I think there's a lot of people, I'm so happy for people if they find something that works for them or thinks for them. I could not, like, truly, I could not be happier if they found celery juice and that's, you know, worked for them. I'm so happy, but I think it's very troubling and it puts a lot of pressure on other people. And also it raises the disappointment levels to, like, if it doesn't work for you, that despair is going to be have a detrimental impact. And I think exactly, and that mentality I think is more damaging to healing. I don't know,
100%.
And I think it just needs to get back to basics and just, this is, the clue is in the title, it's topical steroid withdrawal. We are withdrawing from topical steroids. It's a drug withdrawal. I mean, you hear about what heroin withdrawal's like. That's horrific. We have a skin-based drug withdrawal. It's going to be a horrific skin condition, you know, and we're building sort of our bodies from scratch. This isn't simple. I mean, our bodies have got to start fighting for themselves again. And I mean, this is like layers upon layers. I don't know. I think it's overcomplicated now.
Well, I think also, unfortunately, since there is such a lack of research, you know, so many people feel that you can speed it up by liver detox or this supplement or that supplement, or this is going to rebuild your body. And then it gets on that hamster wheel of constantly trying to figure out how to put the body back together. And it's overwhelming and it's exhausting. And you know, and sometimes, you know, some people get through this so quickly. So you wonder, what am I doing wrong compared to that person? But it's not necessarily maybe that they drink that celery juice. It was just their time, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's true.
You know what I do think we have that gives us hope that was much more minimal 6 years ago, Cara, was we have so many vets now. We have the veterans who have come through.
Right.
And that's where I put my attention, you know, because and you follow your own gut instincts. There were times that I did no moisture because it felt better. And I did see something. But then there were times where for some reason, it's like my body would lead me through the puzzle where it would not want moisture. And then all of a sudden it needed it, you know? So,
totally.
But it was the vets that gave me the hope. I would always go on that portal and click on veterans who have healed, because all I wanted to know, I knew that there was not a doctor who could give me an answer. There was no one that could say, this is exactly what happens. Because, you know, you would get better and then you would get worse and you'd get better. No one could tell me that. But what I could see and rely on was there were people who had healed. And that's all I needed to know. Whether it was 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, people were healing. And so I think that's where our focus has to be. And I just went with the philosophy of don't add more harm. So when I worked with my naturopathic doctor, she would just explain to me, you know, you can eat what you want to eat and not eating sugar won't cure you. But I looked at it like, I'm just not going to make my body work harder.
Right.
So I ate healthier. You know, I'm not going to add more stress because stress made me flare. So I quit working. You know, it was like, what could I do to give my body and my mind the most peace I could?
That's a lovely way of looking at it. That's a lovely way of looking at it. That's like changing, that's putting no stress on it. Because I think that's the issue with these other alternative treatments. There's so much stress involved. The way you're going about it is without any pressure on yourself. It's just looking at what can I do to make myself feel better and not thinking of anything else. I think that's lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
Ladies, so we have one question here, and then we have like 19 minutes. We could talk all day, but so I want to get through a little bit more, Cara, of how you've been empowered and what you've done with TSW, because we all three of us know when you're in the midst of the really hard part, it's really hard to see that this is something that's going to have benefited you later on in life. It's really hard to believe that. When I had everything falling apart, losing my career and friends and social life and family time, it's really hard to comprehend that this could be doing something good for you. So I want to get to that, and how both of you have found like this resilient drive to advocate and to write and to empower people. But we do have one question, Cara, if you will just answer.
Yeah.
Ask the panel, let me just see the name really quick because I like people to know where to see them. Andrew Prince asked, do you believe that at any point in the process, steroids can be used in some type of frequency, or, okay.
Like,
Tell us why.
It's because it defeats the object of withdrawal. Like, I mean, you give it, it's like saying to someone, I don't know why I'm referring to heroin all the time, but like, it's like someone going through a heroin withdrawal and say, oh, here's a bit of heroin. It logically doesn't make sense to me, because I think you just need to get these out of your system so your body can fight for itself again. And I think you just need, I don't think, in my non-medical opinion, I don't think there's any way. And to be honest, the people that have used steroids again, I've never seen anything positive come from it. Like the poor people in our community where they've, used something like a steroid again, that I've never seen something good come from it. So in my opinion, from everything that's happened, I would say there's no way around it.
Right.
Really.
Thank you.
I have a list of questions. So I know, like Molly said, we can talk all day, but I have so many questions for you. So let's try to get through the questions in the next 15 minutes we have. So tell me a little bit about your TSW journey. I know about it, but I want you to kind of briefly describe to people, in a sense, what the time frame was. And
okay, I mean, I will never sugarcoat TSW. It was hell. It was mentally and physically a toll. It was my life. There's no getting away from that. So when I first stopped using them, within the first day, I developed a crustache, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like gold moustache. That was the first.
I've never heard the word crustache.
Yeah, that was what I had. So it was like this weird crustache.
I love it. Yes, I love it.
And then, but I was able to flake it away, and that happened for a couple of days. But then slowly over the next couple of weeks without topical steroids, I found my skin was a little bit red. The rashes didn't really develop, the ones on my body, but I was getting puffier and puffier, like my eyes were getting puffier. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is cool. I'm fine with this. I was working in London. I was like, oh, I'll just put a bit of foundation on, a bit of puffiness, that's cool. I'm like, I can keep going, great. Then suddenly, we don't know exactly, because I was living with my mum, and we don't know exactly what happened, but there was one day we were out for a walk and there was this dog, and I started stroking this dog. And from that point, I just went downhill, and I don't know whether it's timing or whatever, but it was suddenly like, I couldn't do much at all. I was so uncomfortable at night. I was itching. To cut a long story short, basically, as the weeks were on, my face became puffier. My skin was getting really, really berry red. And it was sort of started at my face and sort of over like weeks just went down, all the redness. But yeah, I remember it was probably about 3 weeks into withdrawal. There was one day where I woke up, saw my face, I was like, oh my God, and had to go into the living room, say, Mum, don't get a shock. And it was like, I've never seen anything like it. I would say months 1 to 3 were thankfully a blur, because it was basically, I didn't sleep. It was excessive shedding, oozing, itching. It was just horrific, to be honest. Sort of months 3 to 6 were still horrific, but not like those initial months. Between months 3 and 6 is when the full body oozing stopped. Months 6 to 12, I actually thought, even though my symptoms were sort of full body, it was more my top half of my body than my legs. My legs were weird because the backs of my legs were really itchy at first, but that stopped. There's so much to cover and so many like areas of the body to sort of, but yeah, so months 6 to 12, I found that symptoms were calming down slightly. It still rendered me housebound. I couldn't leave the house. I essentially didn't wear clothes for the first year. I can't, the idea of like clothes near my skin was horrific. But I was like, you know what, maybe I am getting better now. And then I had an anniversary flare, and that sort of sent me back downhill again. And whilst certain parts of my body were visibly recovering, even though I was still suffering, other parts of me were getting worse. My hands from the second year onwards were horrific, to be honest. Like, I couldn't use them for most of the second year. Suddenly, my ankle out of nowhere started flaring, which was still to this day, I haven't got a clue. It was my left ankle, and it was, I couldn't wear shoes in the second year. What else happened? It was just, oh God. So in the first year it was, you know, and the second year, terrible burning. The second year was when I found that the elephant skin was most prevalent, and also when excessive sweating started. I don't talk as much as I should about the sweating, but it was to the point of like, I couldn't move or do anything without full body like waterfall coming off me, and putting that on the sort of open burning skin was the most unpleasant feeling in the world. So yeah, on top of that,
yeah, because we have two questions, and I think you're kind of answering them right now. Two of our viewers are asking, how do you know the difference between eczema and TSW? And I think you're kind of getting into that right now, because there is a very distinct difference. And so as you came through it, do you still have any eczema, or do you, you know, so how do you know the difference? People are trying to determine, how do I know if I'm in TSW or if I just have severe eczema? Is there a difference?
I believe there is. I think, I know this sounds silly, but I think this day and age, we've lost the ability to trust our guts. So I think because we have a manual for everything, or like so much information at us, I think we've lost the ability to trust what we feel our bodies are doing. But I think you kind of know there's a distinct difference. I mean, when I was growing up, my eczema was more rashes, and sort of with TSW, it's such a full body thing. Yeah. So even if one part of you is recovered, you feel there's still sort of an impact in that area. I feel like there's a lot more happening under the skin. I feel like eczema is more not a surface thing, but I feel like TSW comes with so many layers, literally, where it's a different feeling. It's like, there's such little time, but I think you kind of know if you know. I think eczema is more a rashy sort of thing.
I think the big difference is to the burning that. Yeah. That's different in TSW. Eczema doesn't burn, and TSW, you just feel the burning, especially initially at the beginning. And then all the symptoms, the oozing, the crusting, you know, the insomnia, the hair loss, like those aren't eczema symptoms. You know, redness that's just covering you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I just knew that it wasn't eczema anymore. Like, it sounds really sick. I think we've just got to trust our gut and feel like, just listen to our bodies, really.
And I kept reminding myself that the only thing that I did was stop using steroids.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people would say, like, what's happening? Why is it spreading? And I'm like, the only thing I did was stop using steroids. And so there was something there that I knew was different, because the body continued to respond and to get worse. And I knew it wasn't eczema. I had never experienced anything that severe, but I kept reminding myself, the only thing you did was remove a drug. And now your body is continuing, you know, the shedding. It's new stuff that I had never experienced before. I had redness from eczema. I had eczema flares, but the difference was I had never oozed, been up all night, had insomnia, been shedding piles of skin. You know, the difference was so extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't not. Your skin goes through things you don't know it's capable of through TSW. I mean, it's extreme. I mean, yeah, like you say, the hair loss, the oozing. Right. I never had that. Edema. And it never affected. I mean, I had sleepless nights through eczema, but yeah, the insomnia was unlike anything. And that skin in the bed is something I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I just tell people, because the questions are kind of like, how do I know the difference? Quit using steroids. And if your body,
if
your
it's
body will
going
let
crazy.
you know really quickly if you have TSW or if you have a little eczema spot. Yeah.
Cara, can you tell us what kept you going when there wasn't that much info or people in the forums as there are back then? And what advice would you give to sufferers now?
Well, I mean, I think you've got to find something that makes you happy and only surround yourself with positivity. I found there were a few people back in the day when there was just the forum that were quite negative, and I thought I've just got to step away from that. So I used to, it's sad now, I used to watch a lot of Ellen on YouTube, which is now a
Not now.
the whole topical steroid debacle. But yeah, and I just, anything positive I would surround myself with.
Great.
A lot of distractions, a lot of, to be honest, I believed what I was going through so passionately. And I mean, the second year was particularly hard for me with doubt. Like, but it was never serious doubt to the point where I would use topical steroids again, because I thought they're the reason I'm in this in the first place. And I thought it's only waiting for me when I stop. There's no cure with topical steroids. It's not like, oh, there's a chance that you'll get, you just won't. It's just masking symptoms. So that was never an option for me again, because it was like, that's not my skin, you know? So I feel like that was the only reason, you know, I just, in my gut, I knew I had to just trust it. And it's weird, like a lot of people around me were saying, oh, you're going to get better within a year, it's fine. I kind of, in a gut way, I always knew it was going to take time. So I kind of, to be honest, it was the most chilled I've been about accepting things. I mean, I didn't see many people. I just knew I'd had to go through it. I just knew. And it was, thankfully, it was turned out to be the best decision ever. So, yeah. No,
tell me a little bit about what life was like when you started to, you know, when you were healing and getting on the other side. What was that initially like, getting back into society after being gone for so long?
Oh my goodness, I went on a bus trip and I was like, I'm in a theme park. This is intense. Oh my God, this is mental. But yeah, it was literally like, I mean, I follow a lot of, I followed a lot of blogs and like, you know, fashion things. And I was like, that girl's wearing a top. Just like simple things through withdrawal. I was like, I just want to walk down a street and feel comfortable. So for a lot of, I have to be honest, for the first few months after I recovered, I was in shock, I think. So and I was also in a lot of fear. To be honest, I spent 2 years after recovering. There was like a sort of underlying terror of what will it come back. But I have to say, it was just like the feeling of wearing a top and cozying up in it and not feeling anything, just being able to feel and experience comfort and no irritation. Like, not having irritation is, you know, I mean, we have it for 2 years, to be honest, all the time. To not have that in the back of your sort of existence is extraordinary. I mean, it was amazing. I saw things very differently, and it was amazing just to be comfortable. Jesus. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the books you've written and what the inspiration was behind that, and, you know, how cathartic it was for you to get that out into words.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, withdrawal was a positive for me as well, because it's where I really discovered a love of writing. For years before withdrawal, I was like, I'd love to be a writer, but I never really had any confidence in my abilities. I never thought I could do it. I feel like writers are like this, like, special sect of people that, like, you know, I don't even know. But yeah, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start writing. I started writing 5 days before withdrawal, and I thought, oh, I like this. And then suddenly I just had time. Luckily, my mum supported me financially, so I had time to focus on writing. So that's what I did as a major distraction through my whole process. Just, I knew this was the thing I wanted to do. And at the end of it, like, a lot of people, when they found out I wanted to write, they were like, oh, you should do a book. And when I first got better, I was like, yeah, I should do that. But it didn't feel like the right time. I think I needed to process everything and get over the mental healing which was 2 years after withdrawal, to really be able to digest what had actually happened.
And maybe enjoy life for a bit first.
Yeah, exactly. I think I needed to take a step back just to reflect. And then suddenly, like, sort of, I don't know, there was just a moment where I was like, yeah, this is the right time to do this book. And it felt like I could put everything into it and be able to close a chapter literally on that time. And it, cathartic. I've used writing a lot as a sort of outlet to, you know, get it all out, and it just seemed like the natural thing to do at that time. And I'm so glad I mean, I was not prepared for the loveliest response to it, because it was truly a project for me to, you know, it was just to get it out there, just all this information I had, because I have the worst memory in the world before I forgot it, you know, so just to have the information out there was, so it's been amazing, really, what's happened.
Great. Yeah, your book has helped so many people, including myself. So it's just lovely having that guide going through it of someone else that's been through this, and an inspiration of hope. Another thing we were touching on briefly before we went live was, you know, your Instagram presence and how helpful and encouraging and supportive you've been, even though you're so far beyond this. And many people leave the groups when they heal because it's traumatizing, you know, and you want to move along with your life and put it in the past. But it is so crucial for those of us that are still suffering to see that there is hope, that these people are still here supporting us. So can you tell us a little bit what keeps you in the groups and not traumatized by seeing us daily?
Well, I think essentially I am here because I know how it feels when people disappear, because the very few people we had when we were going through it, Molly, you know, you hold on to these people as a lifeline. Like, these are soul, like, so when they suddenly disappear, that can have such a detrimental impact on your own. Suddenly, if someone disappears, you're like, you sort of take it personally in terms of, oh, my skin, it's not worth it, you know, full of doubt again. I think it's just imperative to just have someone there and say, look, you do get better. This is not, you know, a faddy thing. This is, you know, something that changed my life. The thing is, as well, it's weird when I'm on Instagram and I see people's profiles, you know, when I'm flicking through, I detach. It's like two people. It feels like the me now, I can't imagine what it feels like to have that sort of irritation, that deep bone irritation. They're like two people. There are times where suddenly it'll hit me and I'll go, oh my God, that happened, and it's quite overwhelming, you know, that was me. It takes a bit of time to realize that, especially with the London gang. Brianna came over and we had the London screening. Seeing it on the big screen, I cried my way through that documentary. Oh my goodness. So it was quite intense, and I registered again that, you know, I went through withdrawal. But yeah, no, it is literally, it's just two people. When I'm on Instagram, I do have to detach myself, I think, you know, without meaning
100%.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, it's kind of like a therapist who's dealing and coaching people all day on their traumas and would go home emotionally exhausted, but at the same time, you're helping someone, you know, that needs it. So I think that's, you know, incredible that you're able to do that and then detach and live your life, but you're still, you know, guiding through the process. So thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. I'm glad I just know what it's like, and it's just unfortunately we're in a position where we've got to help each other out because we're not being supported.
And we're all each other has. So yeah.
It's very sad.
My last question for you is, what can you say to sufferers who are struggling to believe that they will get better, especially the longer it goes on? I know you've always said doubt is one of the biggest symptoms.
Yeah, I think that is what we've got to accept. Due to the nature of our condition, doubt is a symptom. You know, anxiety is a symptom. We are going through an horrific ordeal mentally and physically without the right, correct medical care. So we're having to fend for ourselves when we really shouldn't be. You know, I talk about the positives of withdrawal all the time, how it changed me. But this is a trauma, and none of us should ever have to go through this. I mean, to anyone suffering, you know, it's not as simple as, you know, 1, 2, 3. This process is having to rebuild our bodies. You know, it's not simple, and it does that. As a result, you know, there are some people that take months to recover, but I think that is an anomaly, because your bodies need literally layers upon layers of skin and tissue and blood vessels have to, you know, they've been asleep, they've been in a coma for years. So, you know, like, there's some people who've been taking these drugs for like 40 years. So the idea of it taking a handful of months to make your body, you know, your largest organ work again, you know, I think we've got to be realistic. And I think the worst thing is you should not put a time on it. I think you've just got to take the stress out. I think you've just got to accept, I think you've got to come to terms with what you're going through and accept that it will take time. And this is not a small thing you are doing, it's huge, you know, so as a result it's going to take time, you know, but it's very hard when you see people that are like a year in and be like, oh, I'm healed. That is hard. It doesn't matter how happy you are for them, it's hard to see that, because you think, what am I doing wrong? Is it me? Oh, do I just have eczema? Is this just like, you know, you go through this dialogue in your head of like, oh, I must just be that anomaly that, you know, I'd see people's hands and I'd look at my own that were like ripped and open. I'm like 19, 20 months in, and
yeah.
And that's the other issue. Healing is not linear. So that's not, you know, most conditions in the world have a sort of timeline of, oh, after 6 months you'll be slightly better. No, you can be messed up for 20 months after being like clear at month 5.
It messes you with your head so much, you can't help but to suffer the psychological effect of it all. And
absolutely. Like, yeah, before TSW, I was quite a sort of, I think, quite British in terms of like, oh, I'm fine mentally, everything's okay. This is a trauma, and it doesn't matter what kind of mindset you're going to be affected mentally. And you've got to accept it takes time. Try and ignore all this crazy information out there. I mean, regardless of whether it is right or wrong, just ignore all the voice. Just trust your gut. Just, you know, think about what's right for me. Try and listen to what your body is telling you, and probably it'll say, give it time, I just need to be. And I see women like exfoliating and like doing all this stuff. Just leave it be. Leave and just chill. Yeah, you know what? I mean, do what makes you feel comfortable. If something makes you feel comfortable, great. But just go with it. I think you just need to ride the waves and not overanalyze I get questions from a lot of people where they're like, oh, this, you know, part of my skin came up in that way. Is that okay? You know what? I don't know. Think there's going to be certain weird things that happen. I think you just got to go with it and accept that's going to happen. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that's one of the biggest things I'm working on right now. You know, 34 and a half months and seeing my therapist weekly. Let it go and leave it be.
Yeah, totally. No,
stop picking it off. Stop interrupting. Stop trying to fix it. Stop trying to control it. Just let it go and leave it be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think
that's the hardest thing.
It is so hard because, you know, all you're left with is time to like focus on the thing sort of taking over your life. But you just have to distract yourself. I think find something you love. You know, for me, that was reading and writing. I loved films. You know, I focused on other things that brought me joy. And I think it's very simple. It's just time and it's finding joy where there isn't much. But, find it where you can, and you'd be surprised.
Thank you. We have a question, Cara, from someone. Veronica asked, what did you use for anxiety in order to focus while writing?
I didn't use any.
Right?
I just sort of went through it really. After TSW, I discovered meditation, which is very helpful, but I don't know through withdrawal with the irritation if that's actually doable. But yeah, just going through it, basically.
All right. I think that's everything. I think that's all the questions I have. I think you've answered everything. So
my goodness. I bet you can just chat forever. Like whenever any of us like get together, it's like suddenly like, oh, 3 hours have gone. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now I feel like I can go on for hours more. I have a million questions for you in conversation, and I could sit here all day with you.
That's just about donuts. Like, oh my goodness.
We've only just scratched the surface though right now.
Exactly, literally. Oh my goodness. This is so cool. Oh my gosh, I've enjoyed this.
Good, me as well.
You have so eloquently put into words what this experience is like, and you know, I know Jessica and I work together to collaborate on what do we think the ITSAN community will benefit from. Your name came up because I think you have shown how to be eloquent during trauma.
Wow.
And also to be very real and vulnerable. That this is not easy, but you are just such a shining example that you will come through, and that connection is so desperately critical for all of us to make it through this.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I mean, Cara is graceful, she's encouraging, she's hopeful, she's everything our community needs to get through this and, you know, keep going. Thank you for doing this.
No,
yeah,
thank you. That's really
we will hurt and we will suffer, but we will definitely come through. And, you know, the questions every time we do these webinars, the questions that continuously get asked are, what did you use? What did you take? How did it, you know, how long did it take? And I think you've really put it into perspective that it is time, and listening to your own intuition will lead the way.
No, I think, yeah, we are in a society where it's just like there is so much information. We've lost the ability to sort of
just be comfortable in your own bizarre skin. Be very comfortable.
Indeed, absolutely.
Yeah. And I remember thinking as you were talking about, you know, the body doing these different things, that I would try to look at it as I'm healing. And when you look back on it, you go, how amazing that my body knew what to do to get me through this, because there wasn't anybody else. There wasn't a doctor or a specific strategy that knew better than my body. And I remember at one point having a hole in my arm here and a hole in my cheek. I mean, a hole. And I thought, what is this? And it just was in this one spot. It would keep coming back. But now it's completely gone. There's no sign of it, neither in my hands. But I think how amazing that my body knew how to channel all of the healing to that spot, to release whatever it was that needed to come through. And it's healed. So we have to. I love that you emphasize so much trusting your body to heal and do the work and give it the grace and the time.
And, you know, I just want to add to that, Molly, that I had a huge, massive wound on my arm for the good part of 20 months. And it was incredibly doubtful. And, you know, but you're trying to have hope, and you see people that have gone through similar things. So you just keep going with it. And, you know, it gets to a point, though, where my parents were doubting. They're like, maybe you should go to a wound care specialist. I mean, this is just taking too long, and like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm just like, no, Dad, you don't understand. Like, it'll be okay. Like, it'll get better. It'll heal when it's ready. And literally last summer, it just kind of started shrinking, and little by little, and then it was better. And then I was wearing short sleeves for the first time in 2 years. And my parents now to this day, they're just like amazed that happened, you know, and just the body is capable of it. It's just so hard when it takes so long, and we have other voices and other people telling us, well, I don't know if that's right. Have you seen a doctor? And it's just, yeah.
No, it's amazing
that our body knows what it's doing.
That's amazing. It's just really cool.
Well, thank you both so much. Our last two questions we just had, one, are there conventional doctors and scientists working on this? And yes, there are. Kelly Barta, our president at ITSAN, is working daily to advocate for us. And the other question was, you know, do you tell family and friends who are using steroids or are thinking about using steroids? And I do, yes. You know, that's the message that I share. And I will even say on my own personal stuff, don't use topical steroids on kids at all, because I don't believe it's worth it, because I don't believe it's going to heal their eczema.
Not an answer. Yeah.
Cara mentioned it's suppressing it. You're not healing from it. So you know, I would advise anybody, feel free to share, and giving people the ITSAN website to me is the greatest gift that you can.
No, I think it is. That's the best thing. I think with spreading awareness for this, you know, you will tell someone who may then tell other people. It's slowly getting out there. You know, it's just word of mouth. I think that's the most powerful tool we have to just keep spreading awareness, you know, and I think spreading it in a positive way. I think it's very hard. Sometimes you want to be passionate and sort of like get in there and, you know, be like, you know, about it. But, you know, I think spreading the message positively, I think, you know, has a lot of power to it.
And I think it is very hard, though, you know, to tell people to be cautious. And when you hear family or friends putting, you know, using topical steroid creams, like you said, you just want to like jump down their throats and be like, no, 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 no. And some people will tell you, oh, no, like I trust my doctor. And like, you know, I know what I'm doing, or it's fine. And you want to be kind about it. But at the same time, you just want to scream like you have no idea.
The worst thing is I think I Instagram storied about it. I was in a meeting that I'm not usually in, and there were these girls in there, and I suddenly looked over and there was like a massive tube of Betnovate, and I was like, what's going on? This girl was like, oh yeah, I get rashes sometimes, so I'm putting it on. She passed it over to a girl with healthy skin who started using it like, oh, this is a nice new beauty treatment.
Oh my gosh.
So I was at that point, I was like, you can't contain this. And I was like, no, you know, Instagram came out. It was like, look, you just careful with this. But that's the thing, it's just about hopefully one day, maybe in the next 5 years, people will know like smoking is bad for your health, but you have the option, you know, do I smoke knowing all these side effects? That's what I think needs to be the outcome, that we it's knowledge, it's common knowledge, and then it's your choice whether you want to go ahead, you know, with the, you know, with all the risks involved in it. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to wrap up. Thank you, Cara, for giving us your time and expertise. What is your book called and how do we get it?
Oh my gosh, so it's available worldwide on Amazon, and it's basically Curing My Incurable Eczema.
Curing My Incurable Eczema on Amazon by Cara Ward. So we will check that out for sure. I want to read it. Oh, there we go. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Here's the before.
Awesome.
Fabulous. Oh my goodness.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiration with us. We could, like you said, we could talk all day. Jessica, thanks for getting Cara connected with us. So we'll post this link on our ITSAN social media, and then if you guys want to, feel free to post it as well. We know that the greatest gift we can give our fellow warriors is the signs of healing and getting through this, and more, as much comfort and information as we can. So let's keep sharing and spreading the word and shining the light on topical steroid withdrawals. Everyone at itsan.org loves every one of you, and wherever you are on your journey today, we just want you to know that we won't give up until this is a well-known condition, and hopefully, like Brianna says, totally preventable. So, Cara, we wish you well. Thank you. I would love to meet you and squeeze you in person one day. And Jessica, thank you. I look forward to talking to you very soon as we continue to collaborate.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.